with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Continued coverage of OTAs, 23rd of May through the 26th of May here for this particular session of OTAs, the first time Washington actually hits the field and has practice. And so we talked about a number of things after OTA day number one. Had a lot of guys step up to the podium, and I was really fixated on what was being said by all of those players. Also, Ron Rivera spoke after practice day number one, and that was an interesting conversation to hear. But one of the biggest topics of conversation surrounded Terry McLaurin's absence, Montez Sweat and Chase Young's absence, and Cam Sims wasn't there as well, but no one was really talking about Cam Sims, more about the two defensive ends that weren't present. And of course, Da'Ron Payne walking off the field during a session of practice. So I wanted to give an update of, the Da'Ron Payne situation, because that was a developing story, one that I told you I would keep my eyes wide open and my ears to the street, because it was something that could affect this team negatively if it wasn't handled properly by all parties involved, not just Da'Ron Payne, but the team itself. And so I said it's something worth, keeping an eye on and monitoring. And, sometimes I think us as fans are so heavily reliant upon the beat reporters because they are on the scene. They're at the team facilities. They talk to these players and these coaches. And so a lot of times what they say is gospel because we have no eyes, no ears there. They are our eyes and ears when it comes to this team. So when we get misinformation or our signals get crossed, and I don't know if Ben Standing, who we got the initial report from in terms of Da'Ron Payne walking off the field, I don't know if signals got crossed, if we misinterpreted what he said, or if he assumed that we knew what he was trying to convey. When you're talking about a situation like that, you have to make sure that you clearly and concisely convey to the fan base exactly what is going on. I don't know if that was necessarily done or not by Ben Standing. Again, he does a phenomenal job. I know some of you don't really care for his work. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. But I think this is a much more accurate depiction of what happened. This came from Rasheed Bryant, who left a comment, a very thorough comment, and one that I loved to read on the last video, kind of clearing up and getting a better understanding of the Da'Ron Payne situation. So Rasheed Bryant, thank you for the comment. And this is what it says. He says, "Lou, great episode, bro. From my understanding, the Payne walk-off," and he has that in quotations, "wasn't as egregious as Standing's report made it out to be." He said he took part in conditioning phase and individual drills, then went to the side field when the team came together for team drills. He and his agent probably feels like that's the most likely time an injury would occur. Facts, okay? A lot of bodies around, even though there aren't pads, guys aren't supposed to be going to the ground. If someone were to go to the ground, it would be more likely than not in the team drills. And if someone were to fall down on your leg or something crazy, a non-contact injury were to occur, it more likely would occur during team drills. He says, and then he has in parentheses, think Reuben Foster. Remember, he went down in a heap in OTAs when he was given a second chance by Washington. He also participated in weight training and meetings later in the day. He literally was only on the side during team drills. I don't blame him. I don't necessarily love it, but I don't blame him. So that was the comment from Rasheed Bryant. Thank you once again for that comment, Rasheed. So essentially what Rasheed communicated there, which is what Ben Standing, I don't think clearly and concisely communicated, was that the only time Da'Ron Payne wasn't involved in the team activities was during team drills where everyone was on the field, 11 versus 11. And again, no contact in terms of, hitting and anything like that. There are no pads on, but you are getting guys going at full speed, and that's when things can happen. We say don't go to the ground, but sometimes it happens, So that's the time where you may be able to get injured more likely than, doing individual drills, hitting a bag or something like that. So he decided to remove himself from the situation. And look, he's got to try to stay healthy. Again, this is a contract year for him. So whether he gets his money here, which is highly unlikely in Washington, or he's auditioning for someone else to pay him big money, he needs to stay healthy regardless of the situation. So he has to do what's best for him. And so let's add a little bit now. And shots were fired when Ben Standing put that tweet out about Da'Ron Payne, walking off of the field. It sent off a firestorm. Everyone, including myself, started talking about it, and it added fuel to the fire, to which Da'Ron Payne wanted to extinguish himself. So he takes to social media, as often these players do in today's day and age, to defend himself. And here's what he tweeted out. He says, "If y'all think I walked out of practice, you goofy, we always working, hashtag most hated." And you see the laughing emoji and then I don't know after the hashtag most hated. So I told you guys Da'Ron Payne feels some type of way. I told you he felt that way when he posted something right around the draft when all of the trade rumors started swirling. And you could tell he was in his feelings about how he was being perceived, like he was disposable, like he wasn't necessary, and he's being hated on. As you can see, most hated. He feels like he's the most hated, right? And again, all of this can be used as, positive energy for him on the football field to show people that they don't know what they're talking about and shut the haters up and all the detractors. But also, it just gives you a peek into his psyche, into his mind, and how he feels about all of this, not getting a contract, being on the trading block, all of the rumors that have surfaced. You hear players talk about the media in Washington. I don't think it's a particularly, rough and tough and rugged group, okay? I think that they do their jobs, but they're not overly abrasive. This is not Philly. This is not New York. This is not Chicago. I've heard a lot worse, and I've heard players have to deal with a lot worse. I can tell you that no matter where you go, reporters are annoying because they ask you the questions that you don't necessarily feel like answering at that particular time. That's their job, however. But after a tough loss and you had a key fumble, I don't really want to talk about, but you have to, right? That's a part of being a professional athlete, is you have to answer the tough questions or even answer the benign questions in a tough time. So in any event, after OTA day number 1, Antonio Gibson talked about the media being tough. And, a lot of times the media members don't really love that because they don't see themselves as being really tough on these players. And Da'Ron Payne clearly is one of those players that doesn't like talking to the media. When he talks, it's very short, doesn't have a lot to say. Similar to Montez Sweat, you can tell they don't enjoy the media portion of their responsibilities, which is fine. Everyone isn't, outgoing and an extrovert and wants to be in front of the microphone and the cameras. A lot of these guys would just like to stay to themselves. They really prefer to just be around their teammates, around loved ones, and really doesn't want to deal with the social media and the public figure aspect to their superstardom, if you will, and their being an athlete. But it comes with the territory. And Da'Ron Payne is clearly one of those players. But with that said, he feels like he gets a bad rap and a negative rap in the media, which is where that hashtag most hated comes from. And maybe there's a little bit of that from the fan base. I mean, how many times have you as a fan individually tried to trade Da'Ron Payne? I can tell you at least 5 or 6 times I've heard Washington fans in different spots, whether we're going after a quarterback, we need to get Deshaun Watson, give him Da'Ron Payne. I've heard that it was Jonathan Allen initially, where every deal, throw in Jonathan Allen and give him Landon Collins too, all the stuff that you didn't want. Then when they re-signed Jonathan Allen, it switched from, hey, give him Jonathan Allen to, hey, give him Da'Ron Payne. Give him Da'Ron Payne. So I've heard his name come up in various trade packages to acquire players imaginary players that were never coming here. And so he hears all of that stuff too. You don't think that this guy isn't human and that he doesn't hear it. And a lot of these guys live on social media, so they're seeing this, they're hearing this, and he's feeling it clearly. But he wanted to come on and defend himself, which he should have, because there's a lot of negative publicity coming from this walk-off at practice when it truly wasn't that. It was just him simply trying to preserve himself. Again, it's OTAs. It's not training camp practice. It's OTAs. No one's looking to get injured in OTAs. No one's ever looking to get injured, but you're especially not looking to get injured during OTAs. So I think he was specifically delivering a message similar to a way in which a coach delivers a message to his players through the media. I think he was delivering a message here to Ben Standig or anybody that really took that walking off of practice like literally he left and didn't do anything else the remainder of the day, and that he was pissed off and he wasn't coming back. He felt like he needed to address them. And shots fired. I hear you loud and clear. Pop, 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 pop. And good for Da'Ron Payne. And I really wanted to say this after day one. I really wanted to say this, but I will never be the guy that tells someone how they need to conduct their business. You do what you think is in the best interest of your success. I don't know what your success looks like or what it takes to achieve success for you. So I don't like to tell people how they need to go about their journey. I can only tell you about my journey. So I was thinking when this whole situation unfolded and we were hearing that Da'Ron Payne left, practice, I was thinking to myself, that's not the way guys in Da'Ron Payne's situation usually conducts business and handles himself. It's one thing if you're a commodity that the team cannot do without. And I'm not saying that this team can do without Da'Ron Payne. However, he's not a quarterback. He's not a running back. He's not a wide receiver. Those are usually the diva positions, edge rusher, that you hear holding out. Von Miller has held out before. Obviously, Deshaun Watson just held out for an entire year. Le'Veon Bell didn't sign his contract 1 year, his franchise tag 1 year, sat out the entire year. Vincent Jackson did it once upon a time where he sat out until week 11 so he could accrue the year with the Chargers and then came on board in week number 11 so he could get the accrued year and then become a free agent the following year. Ezekiel Elliott went to Mexico while the Dallas Cowboys were starting training camp because he wanted a new deal. These are players that these teams in particular could not play without, or at least have the kind of success they wanted to without. So those types of guys can hold out. That's why Terry's doing what he's doing, because he's an integral part of this team that we can't move forward without. Without Terry McLaurin, this offense does not function as a well-oiled machine. Shit, it didn't function as a well-oiled machine with him, but without him, we would have been the worst offense in football. Okay, that's the kind of impact that Terry McLaurin has on this football team. On the field and off the field, he's a pillar. He is a foundational piece of this team. They know they need him, and which is why I keep harping on the fact that he's not going anywhere. He will get his money, and it will be here long-term for Terry McLaurin. But it's Da'Ron Payne. You rarely see a defensive tackle or an offensive guard or a linebacker or a safety or someone of that ilk holding out, because it's usually not a good look for that guy. It usually does not go into the best interest of that player to hold out and become a malcontent, because the team can just say, bro, if you want to play it this way, we can play it this way. Okay, you're not as important as you think. If you know you're that important, if you're a Chris Jones, if you're an Aaron Donald, you can play those games. Da'Ron Payne is not in that category. So I didn't feel like Da'Ron Payne, it was in his best interest to hold out or do anything or play hardball, and that's not what he's doing. So I think sometimes these players are painted, with a broad brush, and that's not fair. Everyone's situation individually is different. And to me, Da'Ron Payne is a guy that, whether he wants to get paid here or not, of course he wants to get paid, right? But look, holding out isn't going to benefit him here or somewhere else. So to me, it never made sense that Da'Ron Payne was going to hold out or he was going to play hardball with this organization, and he's not. So there's some clarity that was provided there by Da'Ron Payne. Again, good for him. And his teammate, Jonathan Allen, one of his best friends on the team, also chimed in right under Da'Ron Payne's post, and it said, "They don't get it, bruh. let them talk. Come season, they'll know what's up. So he's essentially supporting his brother and essentially telling everybody that doesn't know the situation to shut your damn mouth. But he's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Don't try to shut them up. You shut them up with your play, not with any post on social media. Don't try to explain yourself to them because they don't get it. Just go out here and ball out and let them know that way. So I thought that that was a really interesting dynamic there. I told you we would continue to follow it. So Da'Ron Payne defending himself, shots fired. I think he was directly talking to Ben Standig. But, you know, anybody else that was lumped in, come get you some. As I like to say, if I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. If I'm not talking to you, then I'm not talking to you. So you take it for what it's worth. But Da'Ron Payne was in attendance at day 2 of OTAs, day 3 of OTAs. So this is not an issue. It's nothing that we need to really be concerned about. Or as a wise man once said, nothing to see here, move on. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I wanted to talk about jersey number changes. So last episode, I talked about a new number, and this is something that you need to keep up with. So when you see a guy running around and you're like, who the hell is that? You're not confused, because sometimes these jersey number changes happen and they're not really broadcast. So you don't really know who's making the jersey switch from what. So you see a guy wearing 23 and you're just assuming, oh, that's William Jackson, because everybody's nameplate right now says Commanders. So if you don't know about a jersey number change, then you're going to be confused. You're going to be thinking, oh, look at William Jackson III with a one-handed pick in practice. No, he's number 3 now. He's no longer 23. So let's get to some of this number movement so that you guys can be up to speed on what's going on. Because, again, when you first come on to a new team, jersey numbers are already taken, and you have to take what's available. But the minute something comes available that is of intrigue, you got to move on it fast. If you're a running back, you want something in the 20s, you would prefer to stay out of the 30s. You really don't want anything in the 40s. Well, J.D. McKissick, when he first got here, all the 20s were booked. That's where the corners go and shop. That's where the running backs are looking to shop. And so those numbers go really fast, okay? Because you got 4 or 5 corners, you've got another 4 or 5 safeties, and then you've got 3 or 4 running backs, everyone vying for just essentially, and 21's already been retired, 28 can't be worn. So you're essentially fighting over about 7 jersey numbers for about 14, 15 roster spots and guys, right? So first come, first serve. So, 20's available, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 29. Those are the numbers you're essentially fighting over because, again, 21 and 28 are off the market. So permanently. So when J.D. McKissick first got here, he wanted to get in the 20s. He settled for 41, okay? And so it's a tough situation. McKissick was like, look, I've been 41. He was 41 for the Seahawks. So he's like, I'll just stick with 41. It's not a big deal. William Jackson III gets here. It was the first year that you could wear single-digit numbers. His favorite single-digit number is 3. That's what he wore at the University of Houston. But he gets here, and Dustin Hopkins is wearing 3. So there's nothing he can do about that. It's not going to pay Dustin Hopkins to get the number 3. He's just like, I'll just take 23. It's all good. All right. So he takes the number 23. Then Hopkins gets released in season, and the first thing he's thinking is, I need to get my hands on that number 3 jersey. We talked about that last episode. So he put in for the number 3 jersey, and he got clearance to get it this offseason. So that left 23 vacant. The minute it became available, J.D. McKissick then swooped in and said, hey, enough of this 40 shit. I'm getting in the 20s. He's now number 23. Okay, and remember, J.D. McKissick temporarily was no longer on the roster. Okay, contract ran out, was going to sign with Buffalo. Ultimately, cooler heads prevailed, and he came back home. He's now number 23. Okay, so keep that in mind. No more 41 for J.D. McKissick. He's now 23. Speaking of number changes, okay, for the longest time, DeShazer Everett was here in Washington. All right, he was number 22. He's no longer on the roster. He's fighting a legal battle right now. And we'll see how that thing turns out. But he's no longer a member of this football team. So 22 became available. So Derek Forrest, who was a draft pick last year, came into the league. You got to settle for whatever you can get when you're a rookie. He took 48. He's now 22. Okay? So again, you see 22. It's no longer DeShazer Everett. It's now Derek Forrest. You see 23 running around. It's no longer William Jackson III, who's now number 3. It's now J.D. McKissic, who's rocking the 23 jersey. So again, when those 20s come available, guys swoop in quickly because those are very sought after and highly coveted numbers around the league, especially for a member of the secondary or the running backs room. So it'll be interesting to see what other, jersey numbers are, and how when the jersey numbers, dust settles and smoke clears, what we're looking at. But those are the ones that I can, give you right now that have changed. So you're not in the dark when you see a guy making a play or you see someone running around in a number and you're thinking, oh, that's William Jackson III. Nope, that's not William Jackson III. That's J.D. McKissic. You see somebody in 41. That's not J.D. McKissic. That's somebody else. So, and then the last bit of information that I want to talk about today was the impressions of Carson Wentz throughout OTAs to this point. And so we've heard from the players, and again, it's early. A lot of these guys are just meeting Carson Wentz for the first time in person, and they're just seeing him on the practice field up close and personal for the first time. So you can only gather so much from such a limited, interaction with the guy. But one thing about talent, you know it when you see it. It doesn't take long, okay? You see a guy, one time you're like, hey, that guy can play at a very high level. It doesn't take much. So the initial reaction to Carson Wentz was, man, and we heard this from multiple sources and players, man, he's a lot bigger than I thought. Of course, that's an easy, conclusion to draw when the last couple of quarterbacks have been 6'0", okay? Now, Kyle Allen isn't a short guy. Kyle Allen's probably like 6'3", right? Alex Smith is a 6'4" quarterback. He was here. Dwayne Haskins more like a 6'2" quarterback. But, Taylor Heineke's like 6 feet, if that, right? So seeing this 6'5" figure in Carson Wentz with broad shoulders, it kind of took guys aback, especially when you're Antonio Gibson. You're 6'1", 6 foot, back somewhere in that general vicinity, and you see this tall 6'5" quarterback. You're like, whoa, okay, he's a lot bigger than I thought. The next thing was he's got a cannon for an arm. Everyone that watched him throw it said, man, his arm strength is serious business. So that's something else to be excited about. And we already knew that. We've watched Carson Wentz play, as a Philadelphia Eagle from afar and up close at times when he was, doing us dirty. And then in Indianapolis as well. We've watched this guy play. We know what he's capable of when he's playing at a high level. He's healthy and everything around him is going the way that it's supposed to. He can make things happen when things start to break down. And his arm strength is a part of that equation, along with his athleticism as well. And so that was something else that jumped off the screen for a lot of people was this guy's arm talent is ridiculous. But the thing that I love to hear, and this is the thing that we were trained to think that he wasn't this, was his leadership ability. I told you I watched Hard Knocks specifically to kind of get a feel for what Carson Wentz was as a teammate, not for what he was doing on the field, because again, I have two eyes. I can watch and see what's going on. I can, determine for myself what kind of a football player he is. I don't need anybody else to tell me that. What I have to rely on others for is what kind of a teammate he is, because I'm not his teammate. I'm not in the locker room with him. I don't know him personally. So watching that show gave me a behind the scenes, behind the curtain look at who Carson Wentz was as a teammate. And I love what I saw. And I came back and I told you guys as much. And then you hear his teammates come out and defend him when he was traded from Indy. And they talk about how great of a teammate he was. And that was kind of something that I saw watching it. So all they did was confirm what I already thought, seeing so many teammates come out in his defense. And then you listen to what the Colts organization had to say, and they're kind of trying to take us down that Philadelphia Eagles path of Carson Wentz when he was ousted from Philadelphia about how bad of a teammate he was. I think there was some truth to some of that in Philadelphia. I think there was some truth on both sides. I think the Eagles were assholes. I think Carson Wentz himself might have been a little full of himself at that time. So I think it was a little bit of both, there in Philadelphia, and he might not have been as mature handling some of the situations that came up in Philadelphia. And so he ended up in Indy. I think he was better in Indianapolis, and I think he got a bad rap in Philadelphia, and they tried to piggyback off of that. All we've heard since he's gotten here is what a great teammate he's been, which is what we heard from Indianapolis players, okay? And you're hearing that again. One of the players, I want to say it was William Jackson III, it might have been Jonathan Allen, who said, look, this guy's talking to everybody, every single guy on the roster, not just offensive skill position players and guys he's going to be, interacting with on a daily. He's talking to the defensive guys. He's talking to special teams dudes. He's building a rapport with every single player on the roster. So he's showing those leadership qualities. I'm telling you, man, I'm getting excited about Carson Wentz. And so, again, we need the play on the field to match all of this excitement, but we know he's capable, all right? So that was one of the biggest takeaways from OTAs to this point. I mean, we could sit here and we could talk about, Chase Young not being there and rehabbing, or, Montez Sweat having an excuse, absence, or whatever the case may be. I don't care about any of that stuff. I told you last year I didn't care about that stuff. I don't care about it this year. At the end of the day, I like to deal with the guys that are there. And, this is starting to feel like a season in which big things could be brewing for this team. Now, I'll say this. Ron Rivera said there will be no joint practices this year. I don't think it's a big deal. That's something I meant to mention on episode 1. No joint practices this year. I don't have a problem with that. I do see the new wave in the league, however, is teams not putting their starters on the field in the preseason, preserving them rather for the regular season. We saw a lot of teams. I made a big stink about teams not playing their players at all in the preseason. And there were a number of teams that just totally skipped out on preseason games. Why were they able to do that? Because they got their work during joint practices during the week leading up to the preseason game. The Chargers, the Rams were two examples of teams that just completely punted on the preseason. Remember, I made a big deal out of it for the Chargers in particular because we played them week 1 and I was hoping that they weren't going to be prepared, but I was wrong. So joint practices can serve a huge benefit. It can allow you to not play in those preseason games because in practice, everything's somewhat scripted. You're not looking to take guys to the ground. There's a little bit more of a structure to it, whereas in a preseason game, all bets are off. Anything could happen. So with that said, joint practices can be beneficial, but I don't really care one way or the other. If you want to play your players in the preseason, by all means. We got excited off of Chase Young getting a sack on the very first possession of the very first preseason game last year. How'd that work out for us? Okay. He got 1.5 sacks the entire season. So the preseason can be overblown and overdone. I'm not going to do that with you guys. Just know that no joint practices means they're probably going to have to play their players in the preseason. That's all that means. To what extent and how much, we'll see. But I'm not that bent out of shape about not having any joint practices because I don't know, if they truly make a huge difference. And you got to know how to take advantage of joint practices. The last time, one of the biggest joint practices here was highly publicized because the Texans were on Hard Knocks. D'Angelo Hall got into it with DeAndre Hopkins. And so, joint practices can go really sideways quickly because all it takes, tempers flare, it's hot outside, you've been practicing in training camp and it's been physical and it's been rough. You finally get to see somebody different. One dude does something a little out of pocket and all of a sudden you got a brouhaha on your hands and you're trying to separate 110 guys from trying to kill each other. So sometimes joint practices can, be beneficial. Sometimes they can be a bit of a headache. So we're not having them this year for Washington, and it is what it is. Sometimes I think it even comes down to what's the relationship you have with the coach that you're playing against. If you have a great relationship with him, you guys have a working relationship, that you can trust this guy's going to come out here and not try any funny business, then you can have joint practices. You guys can communicate and set it up. But if I don't know you, then it's hard to really communicate and get that set up. So I don't know. At the end of the day, we're not having joint practices. That's the only thing that you need to take away from that. And so I'm going to say this. Across the board, to a man, the message is clear. This is the year that we are supposed to win. When Ron Rivera took this job, I told you guys, 2022 was the season that I thought this team should be prepared to start winning games for real. I didn't expect him to come in 2020 and just change the game right out of the bat. I said, look, we can't be any worse than we were in 2019. That's facts. We won 3 games, okay? We weren't going to be any worse than that. I said, he's going to come in here. He's going to instill discipline. He's going to change the mental approach to the game for these players. And they're going to change the roster, obviously. And they did all of those things. We won 7 games. It was enough to win the division. We didn't think it would be, but it was because the division was terrible. The second year, there were expectations because we won the division. And I told you those expectations probably weren't realistic. I still, however, thought we could win 10 games, you know. And I said, if we win 10 games, everything has to go our way. That was the ceiling for the season. 7 was the floor. We hit the floor. Why? A big part of why was injuries and COVID. It really ravaged our season towards the back end. We played the toughest schedule in all of football. So to win 7 games, despite all of the things that we went through, is a testament to this coaching staff and these players fighting through adversity. But that said, no one wants to hear that in year number 3, because now this program has been implemented for 3 years. The players that have been here all 3 years know exactly what's expected of them. The players that have been here for 2 years, they should know what's expected of them. The players that are just getting here, they need to come in and get on board and help this ship go in the direction that it's supposed to go. So there are no excuses now. You've been here 3 years. You've had a chance to implement all of the things that you think are important. These guys know what you expect from them. The guys that don't, they can rely on the guys that have been here to know what's going to be expected of them and how they should be trying to move. And so now, to a man across the board, I'm hearing the same message. It's universal, and that's a great thing. We need to win this year. Not that you're not trying to win every year, but there are no excuses this year. We need to win. Ron Rivera made excuses last year, and again, he knew his team. He said, we're immature. He said that before the season started last year. We're immature. I don't think we're where we need to be. It showed on the field. There aren't any of those comments. There are none of those right now. Everybody's on one accord. The coaching staff, the players, all have one centralized, focused goal. Win. Win big this season. That's where I'm at with mine. I can't speak for you out there. That's where I'm at with mine. This is supposed to be a year with the schedule set up the way that it is, with everything kind of falling into place, finally getting a quarterback, having offensive weapons and speed everywhere on the offensive side of football, having an offensive line that we feel like we can trust in, having a defense that's starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and having everything that we need to go out and to produce at a high level with a schedule that is conducive to success. There are no excuses this year. Just win, baby. We're not the Raiders, but that's the message. Just win. That's it. I told you, change the narrative. How do you change the narrative? Win. We'll see. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. You know what this is. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, hail to our beloved Washington Commanders, or as I like to say, post up and take command. You guys have a good one. Leave it down in the comment section. What do you think about the Da'Ron Payne situation? What do you think about anything else that we talked about on the show today? Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you all. Also, leave a like and a sub if you haven't already done that as well. Also, until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care and enjoy Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully, I'll see you tonight for Command Post Live. If not, enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Take care.
LouieTeeNetwork.